So hi guys, welcome to Mindful Movement. As always, make sure you have some water and take water breaks whenever you need to. This is going to be a little bit of a flow to help stretch front, sides, backs and insides of the thighs. It's also going to be working on everything else as well, as yoga always does. It's a holistic practice. If you need to use a block, feel free to grab a block, or if you haven't got a block, something that will just elevate the floor up towards your hand if you struggle to reach the floor, bean cans, anything like that. So we're going to come to child's pose. So bringing the feet to the back of the mat, big toes together, knees nice and wide. Slowly bring your seat back towards your feet and walk your hands forward towards the front of the mat. Bringing that head down and just taking a moment here in child's pose to bring yourself present on the mat for the next 45 minutes-ish of practice. If the arms are long, you should be feeling a nice stretch down through the armpits into the waist. If those arms being long aren't comfortable and you want to take a slight diamond shape with the arms, just to take a little pressure off the stretch and the shoulders, feel free to do that. Maybe your sit bones aren't coming quite as far back towards the heels as mine do. It's just about your own personal range of movement, and starting in child's pose can be quite uncomfortable for some, but for others it feels a real happy place to be. Now, child's pose is the place I ask you to come to at any point through practice. If you need to just bring it a little more internally and restore that breath. Start to think now of the breath after you've taken the scan of the body, and just think about where that breath is sitting, whether it's high to the chest, low to the ribs, or down into that belly. Just being mindful of where that breath's sitting for you right now. Trying to send those breaths a little deeper, trying to breathe into the back body, the side body, the front body, to give that full stretch of the torso connective tissue. The tissue that runs from the tip of the fingers down to the tips of the toes, covering all of those muscles underneath the skin of the body. It's what we work on quite a lot through yoga. Your next breath in, walk the hands over to your right side, bring your left hand on top of the right, sink the chest to the inner right thigh, relax through the shoulders, relax through the neck, and just let yourself settle with that left sit bone back towards that left heel. Doesn't necessarily need to reach, just an intention to get there. Breathing into that left side body. Walking the hands then back through centre, taking them over to the left side, right hand on top of the left. Sink to that inner left thigh. Relax the neck, relax the shoulders, breathe into the right side body, and encourage that right sit bone back towards that right heel. Taking those breaths long, as deep as you can, and taking the out breath to reduce all the air back out of the lungs. Walk the hands back to centre. Take a breath out in a neutral place. Then threading your left hand underneath the right armpit, turning your left palm up, bringing the chest to settle over that upper left arm, stretching that left shoulder out into that rhomboid muscle in between that left shoulder blade. Forehead's down on the mat rather than turning of the head. Notice how that left side feels, and keep that in mind when we take it to the right, just so you can be aware of your tight sides, your strong sides. Reaching that left hand back out to meet the right, and then thread the right hand underneath the left armpit, turning the right palm up, settling over that upper right arm, stretching through the deltoid muscle, the rhomboid muscle. Just letting the weight of the body do that stretch, gravity holding that right upper arm down in that stretch position. How does this side feel compared to the left? Then bringing that right hand back out. And then just walk the hands in a little closer. Bring the knees together. Let the chest settle over the tops of those thighs and bring the hands behind to take a hold of the heels. And then just let the elbows settle back down towards the floor if they reach, or just let them hang. And just feel that rounding coming in that upper back, in that thoracic part of the spine. So you can stay here if you wish, or if you wish to take that spine into more reflection, hold on to the heels, come up onto the top of the head, lift the bum away from the heels, try not to put too much pressure on the top of the head, pull back with the hands as you lift the hips up high. So that will take the weight out of the neck by holding on to the heels of the feet and stretching through those muscles in the arms. Feel that rounding of the spine as you hold it here just for a breath. And then let those bums come back towards the heels. Lift up with the torso, tuck the back toes under, well, both sets of toes under. Bring the seat back onto those heels if it's comfortable, and the shoulders over the hips. So we're just going to take a toe stretch for a few moments. Bring the arms out forward. Let's take the mind off the feet. Wrap your right arm underneath your left. Bring the back of the hands together, or do a double wrap, find palms. And raise the elbows up to as high as the shoulders or higher. Just feeling the stretch through the shoulder blades, a contraction through the pectoral muscles at the front of the chest. Release the hands out, this time left elbow under the right, back of the hands or palms, and then lift up with the elbows, round that upper spine, compress that front side of the chest. Lift those elbows as high as you can take them to feel a little more stretch. And then release the arms back out, bring the hands onto the floor, untuck the toes, find tabletop position, and then just have a little paddle of the feet. Quite often that makes the toes feel a little bit angsty, a little bit achy. And just by patting those feet, just takes that pressure out of that pose. So in tabletop position, couple of rounds of cat-cow. Breath in, lifts up with the head, but lifts up with the tailbone, lets the belly drop down towards the floor. And your out breath, we fold everything back in, chin to chest, and the tailbone tucks. This time when we take spinal articulation, start from the base of the spine. So starting to roll that lower spine, coming through the middle, coming through into the upper part of the back, and then lifting the head last. And starting from the base of the spine again, keeping the head lifted, start to roll the lower back, start to send it up through the mid-back, upper back, and then last of all, tucking that chin back to the chest. This time start from the head, lift up with the head, start to send that chest down, and start to roll back through the lower spine as you lift the tailbone up. And again, starting from the head, so start to tuck the chin into the chest, roll through that upper back, and then slowly send it to the lower back. And then come back to a neutral place, tabletop position. Weight stays in your left hand, right knee. Right hand forward, bicep towards the ear, left toes back to the back of mat, and then lift that left leg up to hip height. Keep it core engaged in the center. Then on your out breath, elbow to knee, squeeze it in. On your in breath, lengthen back out. Out breath, squeeze it in. In breath, lengthen back out. Out breath, squeeze it in. In breath, lengthen back out. Hold it out for a breath. Then bring that right hand down, left knee down, and then take the weight into the right hand, left knee, left hand comes out, right toes go back. Raise that right heel up to hip height without letting that lower belly sag. And then on your out breath, elbow to knee. Bring it in. And on your in breath, send everything back out. Out breath, bring it in. In breath, out. Out breath, bring it in. In breath, send it out. Hold it there for a breath. Then bring that left hand down, right knee down, and take a little rock of the hips from side to side. Stepping back through a plank position, then lift up with the hips to your first down dog. Take a little paddle of the feet and a nod and a shake of the head. Then when you're happy to bring those heels to a still position, encourage them towards the floor, maybe a soft bend in the knees. Just protect those hamstrings. Try not to stretch them too soon in practice. Relaxing through the head, gazing back to the toes, the knees or the hips. Then coming up onto the toe tips, drop the heels to the right, come forward with the shoulders, drop your right knee, lift your left hand up to the ceiling. Bring your left hand back down, step back to down dog, staying up on the toes, then drop your heels to the left, come forward to plank, drop your left knee, reach your right hand up to the ceiling, side knee down plank, right hand comes down, left leg steps back, lift up with your hips, back to down dog and draw the heels down. Come forward to a plank position and drop down with the knees, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows and lower the body down to the floor, elbows grazing the ribs. Once you get there, just relax the body down. Bend into your right knee and bring your right hand behind to take a hold of that right ankle. Draw the foot in, push the hips down. Feel that stretch through that right side quad muscle, the thigh muscle at the front on that right side. All the time encouraging that right heel back as much as you can and the hips pushing into the floor as far as you can. Release that right leg back to the floor. Right hand back to the side of the chest. Bend into your left knee. Take your left hand behind to grab a hold of that left ankle. Push the foot into the bum and the hips into the mat. Breathe into those tight spots. Feel everything being stretched on that front left thigh down to that left kneecap. Down through those left shins into the top of the left foot. Release that left foot back down. Bring the left hand by the side of the chest, tuck under with the toes. Keep the core center engaged as you push the hands into the mat and bring the chest back to the thighs, forehead to the floor. Just hold it in this space for a few breaths. Feeling the stretch along the bases of the feet. Stretch through the armpits down to the waist. Then pushing into the hands, pushing into the feet as you lift up with the hips and squeeze the heels back. Nod, shake of the head. If you wish to paddle the feet, paddle the feet. Pushing the chest back, lifting the hips high, drawing the heels down towards the mat. Coming back to a plank position, drop down with the knees. Bring your right foot to the outside of the right hand. Right hand is at the side of the right foot. Right shoulder is pushing into the right knee and we resist with the right knee and squeeze it back into that right shoulder. That will activate the right leg. Get the hips to sink as low as you can. And then if you wish to tuck the back toes under, lift up the back knee and send the left heel to the back of the room. Hips stay low and engage that upper left thigh to straighten that left leg. Finding our lizard pose with the right leg forward, left leg back. Breathe easy into the space. If wrists feel a little tight, maybe come up onto your fists or just move the hands slightly further forward to take that 90-degree angle out of that wrist space. Keep pushing that right knee in towards the shoulder and resist back with the shoulder into the right knee. And then release that left knee back down. Bring your right knee back to meet the left. Hands back under the shoulders. Step back into plank. And lift up with the hips and squeeze the heels back. Coming up onto the toes. Drop the heels to the right. Bring the shoulders over the heel of the hands. Drop the right knee down. Lift the left hand up to the ceiling. Bring the left hand back to the floor. Back to down dog, keeping up on the toes. Then drop the heels to the left. Forward with the shoulders. Drop the left knee down. Reach your right hand up to the ceiling. Side plank on the left. Bring your right hand back down. Lift the hips back up to down dog. And squeeze the heels back towards the floor. Come forward to plank with an inhale. Drop down the knees, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows. Elbows graze the ribs as you lower down to the mat. Push into the hands, just come into a little back bend of cobra first, and then bring the hands away from the mat second. And squeeze the shoulder blades together, send them back towards the hips. Push the hips into the floor and the big toe mounts, lifting the knees slightly away from the mat, but keeping the feet grounded. Backs of the legs are activated. Release the hands back down, tuck under with the toes. Bring the chest back towards the thighs. Core center stays strong as you bring the forehead back to the mat. Stretch through the armpits, stretch through the bases of the feet. Then pushing into the hands, pushing into the feet. Lift up with the hips and a squeeze of the heels back. Gaze back towards the toes, the knees or the hips. Take a stretch through the back of the neck. Create some length across the collarbones, space between the shoulders and ears. Then coming down onto the knees, bring your left foot then to the outside of the left hand to the inside of the left foot. Left knee pushes into the left shoulder and we resist with that shoulder and push back into that left knee. Then tuck the back toes under if you wish and lift that right knee away from the floor and send your right heel to the back of the room. The hips stay nice and low, the upper right thigh engages to straighten that right leg. Again, if you want to come upon fists, if wrists feel tight, come up onto those fists or move the hands slightly further forward. But still maintain that activation of that left knee pushing into that left shoulder. The upper right thigh straightening that right leg. Head in line with the spine rather than hanging down to the floor to engage the muscles through the back of that neck. One more breath in this space. Then drop the right knee back to the floor. Bring the hands back under the shoulders. Left knee back to meet the right. From this position, send yourself back to plank first. And then lift the hips. Squeeze the heels back, finding your downward facing dog shape. Come up onto the toes. Drop the heels to the right. Shoulders come over the heel of the hands. Drop your right knee to the floor. Lift your left hand up. Find side plank on the right. Bring your left hand back down, come back up onto your down dog tiptoes, and then drop the heels to the left. Shoulders come forward, drop the left knee down, raise the right hand up to the ceiling, side plank left. Bring that right hand back to the mat, lift the hips back to down dog, and squeeze those heels back. Your next breath in, we come forward to a plank position. Drop down the knees without moving the feet, shoulders stay over the heel of the hands, turn the creases of the elbows as you release down to the mat. So this time bring the hands down by the sides of the body. On your breath in, lift up the chin, lift up the chest, maybe lift the hands away and squeeze the shoulders back towards the hips. Push into those big toe mounts, engage those upper thighs on both legs to lift those knees away from the floor. Keep the feet grounded, keep the hips pushing into the mat. Strong legs, strong shoulders, strong back body. And then bring that chest back down, hands by the side of the chest, tuck the toes under, chest comes back towards those thighs, forehead comes to the floor, hold it in the upper body stretch, the foot stretch. Breathing into those tight spaces. And then pushing into the hands, pushing into the feet, lift up with the hips as you squeeze those heels back. Relax the head, push the hips high, push the chest back. Feet hip width apart, hands shoulder width apart. And then come back down onto the knees. Bring your right foot through in between the hands. So your choice can be bring a block to the inner right foot if you wish. Bring your right hand to the inside of the right foot and then turn your left toes to come off the right side of the mat. So it becomes a stabilizer here. Bring your left hand to the shoulder, turn the waist, turn the chest to the left, then reach that left hand up to the ceiling, palm facing out to the left side. So that right shoulder's holding that right knee out, and you should feel an inner groin stretch on that right leg. Head, bring it in line with the spine. Use the muscles at the side of the neck to keep that head lifted. Then if you wish to reach forward with the hand to the front of the mat, stretch a little longer down that left side body. Then bring that left hand back to the waist. Lift your shoulders up. Bring your left hand down to the floor. Reach your right hand up to the ceiling. And then send that right leg long to the front of the mat. Then reach the right hand back to the back of the room. Again, now we're feeling the stretch down that right side waist. Head in line with the spine. Use the right side of the neck muscles to keep that head in line. We're either on fingertips or you can use the block on that left hand. You could have brought it with you with the right hand. I forgot to mention that. One more breath here. Then bring your right hand back to your right hip. Use those oblique muscles to lift up through the waist. Turn your right foot back to the front of the mat, your left foot back on the mat, hands to either side of that right foot, and sink the hips down towards that right heel. Let the head hang here and just take a little bit of a humble space with the head. Feel that stretch in the back of the neck when the weight of the head is being drawn to that inner right knee. Then bring your right knee back to meet your left knee. From this position, step back into a plank and then lift up with the hips and a squeeze of the heels back. Hold down dog for a few breaths. Feel the muscles around that rib cage that surround the rib cage, the serratus anterior. Working hard to keep the arms in this flexed position. Come up onto the toes, drop the heels to the right, come forward with the shoulders, drop the right knee to the floor, left hand lifts and turn the chest to the left. Bring your left hand back down to the mat, come back to your down dog, up on your toe tips. Drop your heels to the left, come forward with the shoulders, drop your left knee down, right hand lifts, turn the chest to the right. Bring your right hand back down to the floor. Come back to down dog and then encourage those heels back to the mat. Hold it in down dog for a breath. Then come forward to a plank position. Drop down with the knees, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows, let the body come down in a straight line to the floor. This time take the hands to the lower back, maybe interlace the fingers or just hold on one palm around the other set of fingers. Lift up with the chin, lift up with the chest, push the hands down towards the feet and squeeze the shoulder blades together. Maybe come a little higher with the chest if you have it. We're keeping the feet down and engaging the upper thighs to lift the knee away. Push those hips solidly into the floor. If you're feeling a pinch in the lower back, you're not pushing those hips down far enough. One more breath here, thinking about that space between the ears and the shoulders. Then release that chest back down. Bring the hands by the side of the chest. Tuck the toes under. Bring the chest back to the thighs, keeping everything engaged in the centre of the body. Hold it in that space of stretch of the torso, stretch of the feet, stretch of the lower back. Then push into those hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips and a squeeze of the heels back. Nod and shake of the head. Then we're taking it on that left side. Coming down onto our knees. Bring your left foot through in between the hands. Either bring a block to the inside of the left foot or not. Bring your left hand either onto the block or the floor. Your right foot turns around to the left side of the mat. Your right hand comes onto your shoulder. Turn the shoulders. Then maybe raise that right hand, keeping that left arm there to stop that left knee dropping inwards. You should feel a stretch on those inner left thighs. Then reach forward, maybe towards me at the camera with the right hand, keeping that space around the shoulders, keeping the chest open to the right side of the mat. Now if you're using a block underneath that left hand, make sure you grab a hold of it as you come up. Bring your right hand onto your hip, lift up with the torso, swap hands with the block, bring the block behind you, or just bring that right hand back to the mat. And then straighten that left leg out and reach that left arm up and over to feel the stretch down that left side waist. Bring that left hand back to the left hip. Use the muscles in the waist to lift the torso up. Turn that left foot back to the front of the mat, the right foot back onto the mat, hands to either side of the left foot, and just squeeze those hips down towards that left heel. Let the head hang and let the stretch come through the back of the neck into that mid part of the spine, head hanging to the inside of that left knee. Then bring that left knee back to meet the right. Maybe just have a little rock of those hips from side to side. And then stepping yourself back through a plank position first, and then lifting the hips to down dog second, pushing the chest back. Breathe easy here. Remember, you can take a break whenever you need to. Come up onto the tiptoes, drop the heels to the right, bring the shoulders over the heel of the hands, drop the right knee down, lift the left hand up to the ceiling, turn to the left. Bring that left hand back to the floor, lift the hips back to down dog, stay up on the toes. Drop the toes to the left, come forward with the shoulders, drop the left knee down, reach your right hand up, side plank to the left. Right hand comes back down, lift up with the hips, take a squeeze of the heels back. Then your next in-breath, come forward to a plank position. Drop down with the knees, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows, lower slowly to the mat. Then bring the hands to a diamond shaped position and just grab a hold of the fingers on the opposite hand. Push the hips into the mat, lift up with the chin, lift up with the chest, and then maybe find a lift of those hands and elbows away from the floor. Push into the toes, engage the upper thighs, and lift those knees away from the mat. Push the hips in nice and firmly, engaging the glutes to push those hips down. Full strength on the back chain of muscles and a little bit of activation on those front thighs. One more breath here. And then release that chest back down. Bring the hands by the side of the chest. Tuck the toes under. Bring the chest back to the thighs, keeping everything strong in the middle. Forehead comes back to the mat, seat comes back to the feet, stretching down the sides, waist. Then push into the hands, push into the feet as we lift up with the hips and squeeze of the heels back. So bringing yourself down onto your knees, we're going to take a hamstring stretch. Right foot comes forward. Heel toe that right foot a little further towards the front of the mat. And then start to straighten through that right leg, keeping the toes in a point for the moment. And maybe walk those hands a little further back. If you need to bring the floor a little closer, use a block. Or maybe just bring those hands just on top of that right thigh. Just challenge the balance a little bit. You may need to heel toe the foot out to the side a little bit to do that. But that's a really good challenging balance position. If the hands are down, keep the hands down or on blocks. And then draw the toes of that right foot back towards the shins to stretch through those calves and Achilles. Taking the stretch to the opposite side of the bottom part of the leg. So we're going to make our way in a moment to a standing balance, but we're not going into a standing half splits, just a standing lift of the leg to hip height. So bring your right foot back to the floor, tuck your back toes under, lift up with the back knee, and then step forward onto the right foot as you lift that left leg up to hip height. Bring the hands forward to support you or onto a block, and just let the body fold over the right thigh. Keep that left leg at hip height. Toes of the left foot back to the shins, relax through the head and the neck. One more breath in this space. And then bend back into the right knee and place your left foot back to the mat. Drop your left knee back down. Bring your right knee back to meet it. Plant the hands. Step back to plank. Lift up the hips. Find your downward facing dog. Chest back, hips lifted, heels down. Then come up onto the toes, drop the heels to the right, bring the shoulders over the heel of the hands, drop your right knee to the floor and lift your left hand up to the ceiling. Bring your left hand back down, come back up onto the down dog space, up onto your toes, and then bring your heels to the left, shoulders to the heel of the hands, drop your left knee down, raise your right hand up. Bring your right hand back to the floor, find your down dog and bring your heels as close to the mat as you can take them. So this time we're just going to take a flow of a vinyasa without any back bends of holds. Forward to plank on your inhale, drop the knees and tuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows, lower down to the floor. Breath in brings you to a little back bend or a high back bend, and on your out breath, tuck the toes under, bring the chest back to the thighs, then push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips as you squeeze those heels back. Come down onto the knees and bring your left foot through in between the hands, heel toe the foot a little further forward, walk the hands further back, keeping the toes pointed, stretching through the shins first and the top of the foot. Remember, you can use a block here or bring the hands onto the left shin, but heel toe the left foot out to the side a little bit if you're finding the balance. And then bring those toes back towards the shins and stretch the calves, Achilles and that lower hamstring. Just finding the fold over that left thigh. So we're going to take ourselves back into that standing balance. So starting to walk the hands back towards that left foot, tuck the back toes under, come onto that left foot as you raise the right leg to hip high. Maybe walk the hands a little further forward, relax the neck, try and keep both hips nice and level,
Right toes back to the shins. Breathing easy, looking towards the back of the mat or closing the eyes if you wish. It will challenge the balance if you close the eyes here. And then bending into that left knee and stepping your right toes back. Drop your right knee to the floor, left knee back to meet the right. Rocker the hips. Step the feet back through plank. And lift the hips to down dog. So we're taking that last little flow of side planks and vinyasas. Coming up onto the toes. Drop the heels to the right, bring the shoulders over the heel of the hands, drop the right knee to the floor as you lift the left hand to the ceiling. Bring your left hand back down to the mat, come back up onto your down dog tiptoes. Drop the heels to the left, shoulders come over the heel of the hands, left knee drops to the floor as you raise the right hand and turn the chest to the right. Bring the right hand back down to the mat, come back up to your down dog, and squeeze the heels back towards the floor. Then coming forward to plank on your inhale. Drop down the knees and tuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows lower all the way to the mat. Push into the hands and find your back bend. Then release the chest back down, the toes tuck, chest comes back to the thighs. Then push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips, squeeze of the heels back. Easy breath in and long breath out. Then from this position, make your way into a seat, either swinging the legs around or bringing one knee forward then the other. Bringing your bums into the centre, feet to the front of the mat. So we're going to take an ITB band stretch here. So we're bending into your right knee. And bring your right foot over your left thigh. Heel toe that right foot out as far as you can away from the outside edge of the left leg. Take a hold of the knee then. And then squeeze that right knee in towards you. And you should feel a stretch in the outer right hip, maybe down the outer right thigh. We're going to activate the left leg by squeezing the upper left thigh to lift that left heel away from the mat, bringing the left toes back towards the shin. So we've got an active left leg and a stretching right leg. Tall spine, relaxed shoulders, maybe close the eyes to switch into the sensations of the different states that the legs are being held in. And then release that left heel back and release the activation. Heel toe the right foot back, bring it back over, bring your right foot long to the end of the mat. Same on the other side, bending to your left knee, bring your left foot over your right leg. Heel toe that left foot as far away from that right thigh as you can. Take a hold of that left knee. Tall spine, draw the left knee in, feel the stretch on the outer left hip. Activate the right leg by squeezing the upper right thigh to lift that right heel away from the floor. Right toes back towards the shin. Close the eyes and switch into the two different sensations of the left leg compared to the right leg. Left leg is being restorative, right leg is being active. Keep drawing that left knee in a little closer to feel that stretch on the outer left hip. Squeeze the upper right thigh a little more to raise that heel away from the floor. And then release that right heel down and the activation of that leg. Heel toe the left foot back and straighten that left leg back out. Take a paddle of the legs. Make sure you're in the centre of the mat. Arms come out to a T-shape, to a shoulder height, and then slowly lower yourself all the way to the mat. Keeping the long limbs to control, the abdominal strength to control the movement. And when the shoulders come down to the floor, bring the arms to cactus arms. Take a bend into both knees. Bring your right knee over your left knee. Push the hips to the right side of the mat. And then drop the knees to the left side, keeping the right shoulder down. Keep lifting the lower belly up and tucking the tailbone under so we don't pinch the lower back. And just let gravity take the knees to wherever they want to come to. With the right leg stripped over the left leg, you'll feel a little more sensation of stretch down the right side body. Keep lifting the lower belly. Keep pushing the right shoulder socket down to the floor. Remember, if cactus arms aren't comfortable, you can bring the arms to a T shape. Just another variation, doesn't matter where you go. Cactus arms can be a little bit unavailable for people if they're tight through the chest. One more breath in this rotation. And then bring the knees back up and into centre. Use the strength of the waist to bring them up. Neutralise the spine. Swap legs. The left leg goes over the right leg. Hips go to the left side of the mat. Both shoulders stay down as you drop the knees to the right. Keep the lower belly lifted. Tailbone tucked towards the heel. And feel that stretch coming in that left lower back. If it's not comfortable with the legs crossed, just uncross the legs and just stack the knees. Does your right side feel tighter than your left or vice versa? Always good to keep those differences in mind. Maybe if you do your own practice, maybe you hold one side slightly longer if it's tighter. One more breath here. And then lifting those knees back to centre. Use the strength of the waist to lift. Neutralise the spine to the centre of the mat. We're just going to take one last hip flexor stretch and quad stretch. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Head and gaze stays facing up. Push into the feet. Slowly raise up through that spine. Taking it into our bridge position, back bend, knees don't splay apart, keep pushing into the big toe mounts, little toe mounts, heel and ball of the foot. Squeeze the bum, maybe just to lift those hips just a little higher, just for one more breath. And then slowly release that bum back to the mat. Bring the knees in towards the chest, slowly, one at a time. Take a hold of the knees. Squeeze them in by wrapping the hands around the knees and drawing them in a little closer. Then just make a few circles with the knees in one direction, just massaging that lower back. So we've done inner groin stretch, we've done quad stretch, IT band stretch on the outside of the hips, and the hamstring stretch. Hopefully those pelvises will feel a little less tight. The lower backs may feel a little released. So just making the circles the opposite direction with the knees for now, guys. And then just plant the feet down. Bring the legs long to the end of the mat. Just taking a few moments in relaxation, just to consolidate everything we've just done. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body, let the palms face up and the fingers gently curl. Close the eyes, relax the forehead, the cheekbones, the jaw. The tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth and those lips gently part. Maybe have a turn of the head in both directions, finding that comfortable space at the back of the head. A little movement and rotation from the neck. Let the shoulder blades come down and squeeze together. Maybe have a little rock of the hips. Then bring yourself to as much stillness as you can find. With those eyes closed, maybe noticing any colours and shapes on the eyelids. Maybe noticing the taste on the tongue. Maybe the smells of the room, the sense of touch to the floor. Just switching into sensations, sounds, just being aware of that breath pattern. Hopefully the yoga has brought it to a fairly rested breathing state. Bringing awareness now back into the fingers, back into the thumbs, the toes, the wrists, the ankles, the elbows, the knees, the shoulders and the hips. If you want to take a full body stretch, stretching the hands up and over the head, stretching through the fingers, the toes, maybe arching into that lower back, and then bringing the hands back up and over, the knees back into the chest. Maybe have a little rock of that body from side to side, massaging the spine, thanking it for practice. And then choice to either roll over onto your side and then push your way to seated, or just rock up to a seated position. If you're feeling energetic, rock up. If you're feeling still a little lethargic, roll to your side. Whichever way you've made it to seated, keep the eyes closed, tall through the spine, relax through the shoulders with a slight bow through the head. Breath in, raise the hands to the ceiling, bring the palms together at the top. Breath out, bring the hands to the chest, soft gaze to the floor. Have peace in your thoughts, have peace in your words, peace in your hearts. From my heart to yours, Namaste.